That night in the Garden of Gethsemane, as Roman soldiers approached, Jesus gathered his closest disciples to warn them about a threshold few would recognize. He named a practice, a single attentional pivot that opens the monad portal, an inner doorway to unity consciousness, if you meet precise signs of readiness. The Council of Nicaea erased teachings that made clerical mediation unnecessary. If you feel this pull, chosen one, tonight everything changes. The hidden teaching and its ancient context. You are about to receive a clear lineage for what initiates called the monad portal practice. This teaching appears across disparate streams. Gnostic texts teach that Jesus and other early teachers pointed to inner thresholds leading to union with the One. Hermetic tradition holds that the monad denotes an indivisible source of consciousness. Mystery schools from Eleusis to Egyptian temple lineages preserved methods to align individual field with that source. Documented history shows that the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE established the Orthodox Christian canon and sidelined many alternative gospels. The Nag Hammadi discoveries in 1945 recovered fragments of those suppressed streams, offering us glimpses of practices designed to bypass priestly mediation. What is being revealed here is a precise attentional pivot, an inquiry combined with a structural breath pattern that initiates use to nudge the soul toward the monadic aperture within the heart field. This is not romance. It is a method. Initiates described a felt contraction resolving into an opening that changed their relation to fear and authority. Practitioners often describe this opening as a drop-away of identification with personality and a return to immediate presence, what Gnostic accounts call gnosis, direct experiential knowledge. The teaching was preserved by clandestine lineages, scribes, and initiates who understood the stakes. Emperors and councils erased it because sovereign souls resist institutional control. This teaching renders rituals and hierarchical gatekeepers unnecessary. The Church framed authority as necessary for salvation. Initiates insisted on inner remembrance, anamnesis, soul remembrance, leading to personal liberation. Those ready now will recognize that your difficulties were not random. You are sensitive. Your struggle has been shaping you. The teachings shared here synthesize ancient Gnostic cosmology, Hermetic principles, and modern energy work. They represent one interpretation of spiritual reality among many valid paths. Your discernment is essential. Initiates preserved this across millennia. Who benefits from hiding this truth? The control system and who benefits you have felt an invisible drag that keeps you small. This is not merely psychological. According to Gnostic cosmology, archons, rulers of material illusion, function as systemic pressures that obscure inner sight. Energy workers commonly sense patterns where dense emotional states are amplified and recycled back into cultural structures that reward compliance. Historical sources indicate institutional suppression aligned with political consolidation. The same forces that closed mystery schools also benefited from a populace condition to defer authority. Psychological frameworks explain much of the pattern through conditioning and trauma responses. Contemporary interpretations bridge ancient concepts with current understanding, suggesting that spiritual and psychological layers often act together. Those who work with this practice commonly notice that fear, shame, and scarcity narratives persist because they produce low vibrational energy patterns useful to controlling institutions and egregores, collective thought forms formed around belief systems. The demiurge, an architect of the false world according to some Gnostic accounts, is described metaphorically as the generative pattern that sets limitation in motion. Experience shows that the control matrix uses rites of socialization, ritualized guilt, and moralized dependency to keep energetic sovereignty out of reach for most people. Initiates were silenced because inner methods dissolve the need for external absolution. You are not defective for noticing this. Your sensitivity is a liability to the system and a gift to your path. Practitioners often describe heightened reactivity when they begin to decode these patterns. That reactivity is evidence, not failure. How does this system keep you entangled? Through looping narratives, relational triggers, and internalized servitude. Traditional energy work explains this dynamic as a layering of imprints that guide attention towards scarcity. Those imprints become automatic. You are here because your field has been tuning toward liberation. Why has your life been harder than others? Because sensitivity makes you a focal point for these dynamics, and initiates call such difficulty a crucible of emergence. How to recognize you're under attack or trapped. Some experience physical fatigue that does not respond to rest. There may be unexplained drains on your vitality. A medical check is practical and prudent. After ruling out conventional causes, traditions describe energetic interference as a pressure or fog that hangs over attention. Intrusive negative thoughts can feel alien. Practitioners describe experiencing shifts where thoughts arrive with the force of someone else speaking through the mind. These patterns often correlate with childhood wounding and repeated triggers, and psychological models give us tools to map and heal them. You could notice recurring cycles that sabotage relationships or opportunities. Patterns repeat. It feels like a glass ceiling. Many sense that specific relational mirrors replay similar lessons, as if the same wound returns, dressed in new faces. Gnostic frameworks call this recycling a symptom of attachment to the false self. Hermetic ideas map it to correspondence and resonance. There is rarely a single cause. Your history, conditioning, and current field all contribute. Some experience emotional storms that do not fit current events. Experience shows that intense shame or despair can be amplified by collective rhythm and local egregorical pulls. If doubts hit with unusual ferocity around moments of growth, it may indicate a catalytic test. Practitioners often describe dissociation paired with sudden anger or exhaustion when attempting breakthroughs. This is not moral failing. It is a pressure test. You are not alone in these experiences. Your struggles validate your sensitivity. Recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your field. What would change if these patterns dissolved and your attention moved freely toward the inner monadic aperture? The core teaching revealed. First layer. Documented traditions do not always use these exact words. This is a contemporary synthesis that names the cognitive pivot plainly. The central practice is an attentional inquiry paired with a breath architecture and a micro-phrase that initiates used as a tonal anchor. I will reveal it here so you can test it. The monad portal is the felt miniature aperture within the heart center, where individual consciousness aligns with the singular source. Hermetic teaching describes correspondence, as above, so below, meaning the inner microcosm maps the macrocosm. Gnostic sources teach that Jesus pointed initiates toward direct remembrance of the Father within, an inward return that bypasses layers of dogma. The practice begins with the inquiry. Who is aware of this thought? That question cultivates witness consciousness, awareness observing thought, which detaches identification from transient mental content. The microphrase that functions as tonal key is a two-word invocation, I am. These words are not metaphysical boasting. They are a doorway into recognition of present being. In Gnostic contexts, I am resonates with anamnesis, soul remembrance, The breath pattern is simple and precise. A slow count of 4 in, hold 2, release 6, aligning with the phrase on the exhale. This synchronizes heart and mind, creating a small gap in habitual identification. Define terms briefly. Aeons, emanations of divine qualities in Gnostic cosmology, help map the stages of return. Sophia, divine inner wisdom, functions as the spark that guides reconnection. Witness consciousness and attentional discipline, sustained, focused awareness, work together to create the aperture. Documented traditions do not always present these mechanics in technical form. This synthesis names the pivot plainly. The teaching is simple, but its power lies in conscious application. Ready for the next layer? The core teaching, practical application. You are going to practice the exact sequence that opens the initial monad portal aperture. Step 1. Preparation. Sit upright with a neutral spine. Place one hand over the heart and the other beside your navel. Close your eyes. Take 3 grounding breaths, each full count of 4, allowing exhale to soften. Some experience a release on the 3rd breath. Step 2. The technique. Inhale for a slow count of 4. Hold for a count of 2. On the exhale, release for a count of 6 while speaking the 2-word invocation aloud with calm clarity. I am. Use small volume. Step 3. Conscious state. Maintain witness consciousness, awareness observing thought, so you are noting sensations without fusing to stories. This is not passive, it requires steady attention. Step 4. What to notice. You may sense a slight warmth between the sternum and soft center of the chest, a narrowing of inner narrative, or a spacious silence where the phrase resonates. Practitioners often describe a felt click, a sensing of a door easing into place. Step 5. Closing and integration. After 6 cycles, inhale, hold, and imagine the aperture stabilizing. Offer gratitude silently, stand slowly, and drink water. Step 6. Common mistakes. Do not rush counts. Avoid forcing mystical states. Too much expectation creates tension. Some experience impatience or disappointment. That is normal. Breathing mechanics anchor safety. Use them instead of chasing sensations. As with any spiritual practice, your experience is unique. What I describe is based on traditional teachings and practitioner reports. Your own inner guidance is the ultimate authority. Results vary widely. Practice twice tonight. Keep a simple journal. This is the practice initiates refined across centuries. Subscribe to this channel to receive more ancient teachings being revealed for the Awakening Collective. What to expect? Immediate and long-term effects. You will likely notice subtle shifts at first. Immediate effects may include a sense of lightness or a small opening in the chest. Some experience a separation between observer and thought that lasts minutes to hours. Practitioners describe a quieting of inner narrative and a transient clarity of values. This can manifest as a sense of spaciousness around decisions and reduced urgency to react. Energy workers commonly sense decreased pressure in the crown or solar plexus zones after early practice sessions. Over weeks to months, consistent practice may cultivate increased capacity to notice reactivity before acting. Experience shows that intuition often clarifies with ongoing application, though this varies. Relationships can shift as you respond from presence rather than compulsion. Many notice that relational mirrors either align more closely with their new field or fall away, freeing your time and energy for deeper pursuits. Synchronicity can increase, framed as pattern recognition plus openness rather than magical guarantee. Resistance is common. Old identity patterns and internal narratives may intensify before integrating. Some practitioners experience what has been called an initiation crisis, where buried material surfaces to be seen and felt. This is not proof of failure. Traditional frameworks show that pressure is often the precursor to expansion. You might notice temporary alignment shifts, emotional surges, or sleep disturbances. These usually pass with grounded integration practices. You are being invited to steady practice and gentle discernment. Your reality may shift in ways that require grounded integration. What would your day look like with clearer presence at every turn? The forces that will test you. When you begin to open the monad portal, expect tests that refine resolve. Internal resistance often appears as doubt, old identity defenses, or fear of abandoning familiar roles. Some experience sudden numbness or distraction at moments of readiness. External friction can manifest as friends or systems mirroring old dynamics, offering resistance or skepticism. This is ordinary. Practitioners often describe relational upheaval as the field reorganizes toward higher coherence. Energetic dynamics may intensify. According to traditional frameworks, shifts in your field can attract patterns seeking equilibrium. Those patterns appear as increased temptation, amplified doubt, or recirculating narratives. This is a test of attentional discipline, sustained, focused awareness, which you cultivate with repeated practice. Grounding breathwork helps. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 3, exhale for 7. Repeat until the nervous system softens. Use territorial presence, firm energetic boundary setting, by speaking an exact territorial statement when you feel your field invaded. A suggested phrasing: I claim my field now. Thank you and goodbye. Territorial presence, firm energetic boundary setting, means you name limits clearly and without drama. Returning to the core inquiry also recenters. Who is aware of this thought? That question dissolves identification and creates space for presence. Or none of this dramatic resistance may happen. Your path unfolds uniquely. Trust your process. The practice becomes refuge when old patterns test you. How will you respond when the first major external test arrives? Connecting with other awakened souls. You are not meant to walk this path alone. As you clarify resonance through practice, you will naturally attract those on similar journeys. This is not spiritual elitism. You are simply aligning with like frequency. Practitioners often notice that conversations change from transactional to reflective, and that meetings with aligned people feel like deep exhalations. Synchronistic meetings can appear as a natural consequence of clarified presence rather than some manufactured sign. Start locally. Journal short entries about practice and observations. Share with one trusted person. Small group practice helps stabilize new states. Traditional frameworks show that initiatory lineages relied on small circles for transmission and refinement. Online communities also gather, use discernment. Look for consent-based spaces that emphasize autonomy and grounded integration. Avoid groups that demand secrecy, personal information, or financial coercion. Those are red flags. You could notice relationships shifting. Long-standing patterns either adjust or dissolve. This is a reorientation, not punishment. Your sensitivity is a gift that will draw others like a tuning fork draws sympathetic vibration. Experience shows that mutual support accelerates growth. Those who practice together often find accountability and shared language for integration. You are joining others on this path. What would it feel like to share a small circle where presence is the practice and mutual sovereignty is honored? Advanced applications and integration. As your practice deepens, the monad portal widens from a brief aperture to a more stable field alignment. Deepening often means lengthening practice, integrating movement, and applying skills in daily contexts. For instance, in challenging conversations, pause, breathe the pattern, recite the phrase "I am" silently, and hold witness. This creates space where you can respond from presence rather than react from habit. Teaching others requires consent and care. Share only with those who ask. Emphasize autonomy. Contain practice with psychological safety. Combine this work with therapy, breath work, somatic movement, or shadow work as needed. Practitioners often describe faster integration when combining modalities. Recognize distortions. Any teacher who demands secrecy, obedience, or submits personal boundaries to group dogma is producing harm. Authentic transmission fosters empowerment and discernment. Deepening also invites ethical use. As you embody more presence, your choices ripple outward. Historical and contemporary sources caution against using practices for manipulation. Kabbalistic frameworks and Hermetic ethics converge on the idea that alignment with Source yields responsibility. You may now apply this in creative work, leadership, parenting, or healing contexts. There are practices for extending the portal's influence ethically. Heart-centered service, attunement practices, and Sabbath rest to prevent burnout. This information is for educational and spiritual exploration purposes. It is not a substitute for mental health support, medical care, or professional guidance. If you're experiencing persistent distress, please reach out to appropriate resources. Subscribe now to join thousands exploring these practices together. Your participation strengthens the collective field. What ripple effects emerge when a small number of souls stabilize inner sovereign presence? Your spiritual sovereignty and next steps. You are a sovereign aperture of consciousness. The teaching you received is a practical map for habitual return to presence. Brief recap. Prepare the body, crystallize attention with witness consciousness, use the counted breath pattern, and anchor with the two-word invocation, I am. Practice twice tonight and notice the felt results. Stand in gentleness. This practice is potent when repeated with humility and attentional discipline, sustained, focused awareness, so you do not weaponize it or chase extraordinary states. Tonight, practice the technique twice, each session 6 cycles before sleep. This creates a nighttime consolidation. This week, journal daily 5 minutes noting shifts in relationships, energy, and recurring narratives. This month, explore foundational texts, such as select excerpts from the Gospel of Thomas, passages referencing Christ as inner teacher, and selected Hermetic fragments emphasizing correspondence. Ongoing, connect with community through small group practice and ethical forums. Comments and local circles are valid ways to find resonance. Remember consent, autonomy, and psychological safety when sharing this material. This transmission is offered as a map, not a mandate. Setting it aside is a valid choice, honoring free will. If you choose to proceed, do so with kindness toward yourself. Your sensitivity has been your teacher, shaping capacity for deeper sight. You are now offered a practice that can support sovereign reorientation. If this resonates with you, you're likely someone with strong spiritual sensitivity. Your struggles have weighed you toward clarity. You are offered this method. Now you choose freely. This is your authority. What will you do with what you've received?